When I was trafficked at 14, okay, people are like, well, she's a victim, she's 14. But then when I turned 18 and I got charged with prostitution, I was a bad girl. I was horrible. I was a criminal. I wasn't treated like a victim, but I was victimized. Yes, so my name is Flora Whitfield. I am the Communications and Program Manager here at Breaking Free. I'm also a survivor. A huge barrier for our ladies is that they don't necessarily always go to shelters because it's not safe all the time for them. There's a lot of different reasons why women are not accessing shelter spaces. One reason is that they don't qualify all the time because their incident didn't happen right then and there at that day or the day before. And most shelters are going off of immediate need. If you were assaulted the night before or if it's an emergency, it's sometimes hard to navigate those systems for those ladies. I mean, if you're in survival and you need a place to go right now, you're not gonna wait around on a waiting list. You're gonna probably go out and try to figure it out. And then maybe you might go into a shelter, but if you have a mental health problem or addiction problem or whatever that issue is that's preventing you from being successful at that shelter, that may put another barrier and add on another 2 months or 3 months. It's hard to take months and months to wait for housing to come through. So by the time it comes through, we're probably already back on the streets trying to figure out how to survive. And we may have even changed numbers so they can't get a hold of us when our housing opportunity comes up. And then they slip through the cracks again. And they're back homeless 1 year later or 6 months later because they weren't offered all the services that they need.
I'm Conard. I am the Housing Resource Specialist with Stearns County. So I work with any type of housing. I work with shelters, emergency shelters, additional housing, rapid rehousing, all the different programs that HUD offers. So domestic violence shelters are wonderful, but I don't know personally if they are able to meet the needs of trafficking victims. Their staff is trained specifically for domestic violence, which that could be a part of trafficking life, but trafficking life just can entail so many different things, and domestic violence as well. But your staff at a domestic violence shelter would have to be specifically trained to meet that person's needs.
I'm LePage. I work with Lutheran Social Service, but I'm funded through the Minnesota Department of Health to be the East Central Regional Navigator. So, although we know that trafficking and exploitation is out of someone's control, they do sometimes still come out of the life with convictions on their records. Misdemeanors, low level, up to felony charges. So we know that that's a reality, and we know that that's a continuous barrier for individuals to get out of the life, particularly with trafficking and exploitation. We have people that are, coping through the use of substances, and we see a lot of the rings of trafficking not only involved in trafficking of people, but also in the sales of drugs and things like that. So I've had cases where it's been, the trafficker has the victim carry those drugs on them. So if they get pulled over, they look like they belong to the victim and not the trafficker. And due to trauma bonds that, we're aware of, we know that victim's not going to, tattle on their trafficker, and they're going to take that charge in place of their trafficker.
After I got out of the life, that's when the biggest barriers came because I had a criminal record. I had multiple prostitution charges, so people didn't want to rent to me because of that, just because of the stereotypes and the stigmas that go around having a prostitution charge. Having to go in there and explain to someone like this, the reason why I went through this was because I was sex trafficked, and explaining to them that it wasn't a choice, but only to be turned down for the housing or the job or whatever that is.
So there's three major things that rental places look for. They look for criminal, credit, and rental history, which if you're being trafficked, you're gonna have most likely criminal of some sort, no rental history, and no credit. So those three things, you won't have a good shot at finding housing without assistance. The credit score really doesn't, it's a number, and yes, it shows that, maybe you missed payments or whatever, but it doesn't show who you are, and situations change. I don't think that should stop people from getting a place. I think the public can do a lot to help, and I think our area here is really blessed to have Terebinth Refuge, and I think we have a lot of wonderful people that do help. People can volunteer, donate money, donate your time, experience. If you have a special skill, I think the biggest thing would be grace and love. I think are the biggest things.
The other thing that we can do is, really donate time or money to these programs. There's never enough funding going around the state. We always need more funding to be able to serve people appropriately. One of the things that I've done with donations that's come in is I've supplied, officers and outreach workers with resource bags so that if somebody comes in for an interview, they can change their clothes, because who knows what has happened to them in those clothes.
Landlords will see this video or see people making a change and see that they can become allies to our women coming out of sex trafficking. Give them a chance. The worst thing that can happen is that it just doesn't work out, and that's okay. But give a person a chance. You can't even start to begin to have a healthy, stable lifestyle without a place to stay, and a healthy place to stay. Because I've been in situations where I've had a place to stay, but it wasn't a healthy situation, so I couldn't grow or even regain any stability because it was unstable, or abuse was going on or whatever the case may be. So when I say that I was fortunate, yeah, I was fortunate, but there was still a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors.
The hardest part of, I think, my job is not being able to find housing for somebody when they have a voucher, especially these once-in-a-lifetime ones. Because I can't find anybody willing to give somebody a chance. Everybody needs to come together with supporting traffic victims, starting over. We need to be a unified front and helping people building their lives. And they can do amazing, amazing things.